Hello and welcome to another midweek edition of Championship Predictions from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Craig Savage, and with me as always is Mr. Daniel Cody. We have got two games to predict this midweek. They are rearranged from last month because of COVID. And we start with Reading, who are one of the teams that have got to catch up the most. They're at home to Fulham. Reading obviously haven't been playing well in the last couple of games they actually have played. They drew 2-2 at Derby. Looked like they were comfortable with a 2-0 win, but they lost 2 goals later on, and they lost in the FA Cup. Fulham didn't play in the last Championship game, but they did beat Bristol City in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I've got to start with Reading because obviously, look, they were victim of one of the big giant kills of the weekend in the FA Cup. Kidderminster Harriers of the National League North beating them. One of the things that's become a concern for Reading after those weeks off is 2 games where they've played largely different sides for obvious reasons. They're a thin squad anyway, but 2 games where they've been ahead and run out of legs, maybe not managed the game particularly well. And after 3 weeks off, that is a little bit of a concern. Fulham, on the other hand, in terms of recent form, I know they didn't play for a couple of weeks in the league. The last one was that poor defeat against Sheffield United. And we do forget, despite their brilliant start to the season, the fact they've got over 50 goals this year, they hadn't won in 5 Championship games. It was draw, and then defeat against Sheffield United. We saw a game with them last month against Luton Town where they weren't particularly convincing. They were all right, but they didn't look like a top-of-the-table threat. And obviously in the FA Cup, although they got that victory in the end against Bristol City, they left some of the big hitters on the bench, but it went to extra time. They had to bring a lot of them on to win them the game. And eventually you have to ask, what is 120 minutes going to do for some of those defensive players that are then going to start again? So potentially there are some concerns on a fitness front for Fulham. For Reading, it's just about having a squad together at the moment. We've talked about the disarray they're in. And from a championship point of view, it's nice for us. We can look at these 2 fixtures in a bit more detail. Reading only 3 points clear of the bottom 3. Obviously, the points deduction hit them. They need some work in January, but they're not realistically going to be able to do much. And Fulham, how are they going to react to being outside the top 2 for the first time in God knows how long this season? They've got Blackburn a point above, obviously the couple of games in hand. But as you mentioned, with the fixtures piling up and all these extra midweeks coming for a lot of teams, Fulham one of them, is it almost better to have the points on the board at this stage? For the fixture itself, both teams are in poor form. Reading are officially the most unpredictable team in the league at home. 4 wins, 4 draws, 4 defeats, scored 18, conceded 18. The one thing you know is there's probably going to be goals. Fulham away, look, they've got one of the best records. They've conceded the second joint least. They've scored by far the most, 27. Even if you took out that 7-0 at Blackburn, they'd still be the second top scorers on the road. And if they win their 2 games in hand on the road, they will be the best side with the best away record in the league. I'm going big for Fulham here, and I know this is really risky. I think Reading are in disarray. I think it's going to be a really tricky month for them. And I'm going for Fulham to win comfortably. I'm going to go for them to keep a clean sheet and to win by, surprisingly, 3-0, because from what we've seen with Reading in the second half of recent games, they're going to concede a few goals. And Fulham, if they're at their best and most ruthless, will batter them.
Yeah, let's start with Reading. The confidence, I think, would definitely have been knocked. Obviously, having that lead against Derby to start with, it was there for the taking. They didn't take it. The confidence would have been knocked from there. Playing Kidderminster away, obviously FA Cup, we know how magic that is. We've been to a few games. We know we can see a cup set. And we've seen cup sets this season personally from both of us. And you saw it there with Reading, and you kind of felt like once Kidderminster got one, they were going to go and win it. So the confidence would definitely have been knocked for Reading. And obviously with a small squad, loads of injuries, COVID got in the way as well. They are really struggling, and it's going to be a very tough month. And probably playing against Fulham is not far from ideal, considering you just lost to a team in the 6th tier of English football. Fulham, on the other hand, not great form themselves, 4 draws in a row and then a defeat. So they won't be as confident as everyone predicts. Yes, they got a good victory against Bristol City. All right, the goal was a bit lucky, but that's that sort of performance that I think Fulham really needed. So who knows what could happen? It's like picking these championship scorelines just as hard as picking an FA Cup tie with these predictions. So, but I am swinging my way for Fulham. I'm not going to go 3-0. I'm going to go 2-0. And the game Wednesday, it is Barnsley versus Stoke. Barnsley, last time they played in the Championship, didn't play in the last round of fixtures. Stoke did and lost. Let's start with Barnsley. They last time they obviously played in the FA Cup, they won 5-4 after extra time against Barrow of League Two. Does that worry you that they've conceded 4 against League Two Barrow, with all due respect to them?
It either worries me or makes me look stupid, because last time we were talking about Barnsley, I said the one positive that comes out of the new manager or the new head coach is that they weren't conceding as many goals. They looked a lot more solid defensively. And it was for whatever you say going forward, it was a pretty strong defence from them. I think the biggest concern in that game, to be honest, Craig, is at 1-0 with 38 minutes gone at home to a League Two side. They go down to 10 men. You think you're going to have a comfortable day at the office. And I mean, they just fell apart. The thing that you saw with Barnsley is the impact of not winning a game for a long time. Even against the League Two side with 10 men, the panic that set in when Barrow brought it back to 1 goal behind, the panic when Barrow had a bit of territory defensively was really scary. And I looked at that, given their recent championship form, they haven't won in a long time. And I just said, how on earth are they going to see a game out? And I know it's similar to the last game that them and Stoke are both in pretty poor form. I know both of them eventually got through in the FA Cup. As we're recording this, Stoke have just got through against Leyton Orient. Tyrese Campbell continuing his recovery with another goal. Tom Ince starting to become a bit of a figure there, scored a few goals in recent weeks. But as you say, the championship form, lost at home to Preston, were really poor at home to Derby, and were unconvincing against Borough. But this is their only catch-up game, really. They're not that far behind, and they are still in that playoff mix, remarkably. It shows how even the championship is this year. They're still in 8th place. They're still only 5 points off the playoffs, and they've got a couple of games in hand on Huddersfield. Whereas Barnsley, I know I've said this 1 or 2 times this year in recent weeks in particular, when some of the fixtures have been cancelled. If they don't start winning soon, they're gone. They're 8 points off Reading. They're reliant on Reading and Peterborough to not pick up points, basically, because I don't see them getting enough to reach the average points total to stay up. I think they're reliant on big signings and potentially poor form from other teams. Albeit Barnsley are better at home. They've picked up 10 of their 14 points at Oakwell this season. Stoke on the road, we always talk about, they're a bit of a mixed bag. They've won 4, they've lost 5. There's not often many goals in them. And I think Barnsley, after conceding 4 at home to Barrow, they have been better in the championship defensively. They're going to be tight. They're going to try and frustrate them. But if Stoke get one up, we've seen even at Kenilworth Road, they're the masters of doing the same. So as much as it risks making me look like an idiot again, I am going to go for a Michael O'Neill special at Oakwell. I am going to go for 1-0 to Stoke City. And look, Charlie was back for AFCON last week, so he'll probably be quite proud of me for doing it.
No, because you didn't link Kevin Davis into it. Yeah, Stoke obviously have been out of form recently. Barnsley, that game was an absolute joke against Barrow. And I said this to you, obviously you and Charlie in the private chat. I'm like, Barnsley deserve to go down from this performance because their game management is shocking. To go ahead 3 or 4 times and then not hold on to a lead. 4 goals in the last 10 minutes of the game is beyond ridiculous. But it's the FA Cup, it's magic. We, as neutrals from us, it's lovely to see. But I presume Barnsley fans at Oakwell yesterday must be going absolutely mental. I'll be going mad. Like, what the hell are we doing? And then we'll have to put up another half an hour of this rubbish, really. And in the end, they got through. Fine. They're through to the 4th round. I'm very concerned by that. If you're doing that against Barrow, as I said, all due respect to Barrow, and fair play to Barrow for 10 men and coming back into the game at least 3 or 4 times. But fair play to them. But you can't do that. You cannot possibly do that, especially at home. I know your confidence is knocked. You haven't won in ages. You've only won 2 league games all season, but you can't do that. Stoke, they've just been a mixed bag lately. They got a very good victory at QPR a few weeks ago, and then they lose at home to Preston. And you're like, that's why I can't see I can't see Stoke making the playoffs just because it's like that. So they need to get back into winning ways. They need to get back in form. You said a Michael O'Neill special. I think it'd be a Michael O'Neill special in a way. I don't expect a pretty game. It definitely won't be 5-4, but I'm going to go 2-1 to Stoke. Let's have a quick recap what we predicted for this midweek edition. We've both gone for away wins, really. Cody's gone for a convincing 3-0 for Fulham and this Michael O'Neill special. I've gone Stoke to battle out a 2-1 win and Fulham comfortable at Reading. And those are our predictions for the 2 games this midweek of the Championship. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? Let us know in the comment section down there. And while you're there, give this video a like, subscribe to the Honest Football Podcast, and you can follow us on Twitter at Honest Football 3. And we'll see you next time.